Welcome back to the Sports Max Zone, and we are continuing our deep dive into the 2025 ISSA Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletic Championship, which ended at the weekend in Kingston. Notwithstanding the excellent performances from the athletes across the 5 days, it had its fair share of contentious moments. There was an inordinate number of false starts, plus several retroactive disqualifications for false starts, which also led to some controversial reinstatements. Now, within the false start saga was the issue of inconsistent reaction times. The official results produced many occasions where some athletes within the same race were credited with reaction times while others were not. Add to that, the untidy scene of athletes made to wait for a long period ahead of their sprint relay finals while organizers facilitated a principals race plus an entertainment package. Now, on Monday, we addressed some of these issues with Champs Meet manager Anthony Davis. Today, we'll focus on the transfer quota issue that popped up at Champs with Kingston College. We'll explain the rules and the sequence of events that led to the breach. Here's a section of the ISSA rule that speaks to transferred athletes. Transferred students, all students transferring from a secondary institution outside of Jamaica will be subject to a waiting period of 1 year before becoming eligible to participate in ISSA organized competitions, irrespective of their age. This means that students under 16 years old and coming from secondary schools abroad are now subjected to the waiting period. These students will also now be regarded as members of the school's quota for each sport. And the following exceptions would apply. Well, we just saw them there at the end. Now, Ricardo, you've been tracking this story. Where are you on this?
Yeah, so first of all, before I get into this, Lance and Mariah, I just want to say, and I want people to understand that this is not an attack on any institution. This is an attempt at finding the truth so that individuals who are invested in issues like these can be satisfied that when decisions are made, that those decisions are indeed correct. And if there is any blame to go around, and hopefully there is none, that it is placed at the right feet. And that's essentially where we are. So one of the things I want to look at to start this conversation is a timeline of what led to the Kingston College breach. So let's first have a look at that timeline. I'm starting from January 2019 because that is when the transfer rules were first introduced in January 2019. Then in 2023, January 2023, ISSA announced amendments to the transfer quota rules to take effect in September 2023. Now follow me here. In April 2023, Kingston College says that Joel was registered at the school in April 2023. That's at Kingston College. In June 2023, Clement attended his last class at Hillsborough in Grenada. So note those two things because I'm sure we'll come to that. September 2023 is when the young man arrived in Jamaica to attend Kingston College. January 2025, and this is also important, Kingston College wrote to ISSA seeking consideration under special circumstances for Clement. Now, ISSA did not respond to that letter sent to them by Kingston College, and we can get more into that. Now, in March 2025, which is what happened over the period of ISSA Boys and Girls Championships, which led up to the breach ultimately, Clement was named by ISSA on a list of Kingston College quota athletes. So what happens ahead of the championship, the Intersecondary School Sports Association will send the flagged athletes to the individual schools. And if there's to be a response or a retort, then the schools are able to say, hey, I realize you have this person on our list of quota athletes, but based on this, and ISSA may say yay or nay, and a decision is made. Now, KC says ISSA gave a verbal waiver for Joel Clement, and that is out of whatever conversation that would have been had to say, hey, these are the circumstances around this, so this young man should not be part of the quota system. JC, upon seeing 3 Kingston College athletes compete, because you're only allowed 2 quota athletes, and upon seeing a 3rd, Jamaica College lodged a protest. And then ISSA acknowledged that the JC protest was valid and reinstated Clement as part of the Kingston College quota system. And then, of course, subsequent to that, Dylan Logan, who was the 3rd quota athlete to actually compete for Kingston College, because seeing that Clement was reinstated, but he was the first, I think, to actually, no, the 2nd to take the track, because the long jumper would have competed before him, Anthony Hall. And so it was Logan, who hadn't scored a point in his discus but had the shot put to come as well, who was deemed ineligible to continue competing in the competition. Now, I'm sure there are a number of questions that you guys will have, Lance and Mariah, but before I get into any of that, I want to start by looking at a letter, or the letter, that was sent by Kingston College to the Intersecondary School Sports Association in January 2025. So that is earlier this year. So let's have a look at that letter and see what Kingston College said in that letter, because it is so important to everything that's happening. And this is addressed on the 27th of January 2025 to Keith Wellington, who is the president of the Intersecondary School Sports Association. And it says, Joel Clement was accepted to attend Kingston College in April 2023. Note the use of the word accepted. Despite his official acceptance due to personal circumstances, he arrived in Jamaica August 2023 after the end of the official school year on July 7, 2023. I kindly request your understanding and consideration in acknowledging Joel Clement's situation. He was in ongoing dialogue with Kingston College and had been accepted in April with the intention to start at the beginning of the subsequent school year. Unfortunately, his delayed arrival was prompted by circumstances beyond his control. I trust you will take this information into account as you assess Clement's academic progress and standing within the Intersecondary School Sports Association guidelines. It is important, very important for me to point out, Lance and Mariah, that ISSA never responded to this email sent by Kingston College. My investigations tell me that they never saw this email initially, and that this email only came to the fore following the Jamaica College protest, but that it was actually sent by Kingston College. So that is my understanding. There's also another letter that is sent to Mr. Anthony Davis following the protest by Jamaica College that I think is important for us to have a close look at as well in understanding what has taken place here. And this says, Dear Mr. Davis, I am in receipt of your letter. Read the caption subject and hereby offer the following, including the attached documents in challenge of your proposition. Based on our understanding of the ISSA rules related to especially foreign quota student athletes, Joel Clement cannot be a quota athlete since he registered at Kingston College in April 2023. So note that very important date about him being registered at Kingston College in April 2023. And ISSA's rule that foreign student athletes will be included in the school's quota became effective September 2023. Even with this understanding, we took the initiative to seek ISSA's clearance on the matter. And this is very critical now. Mr. Smith, who is a member of the Kingston College staff, received said clearance from ISSA's executive officer, Miss Brown. Please see the supporting documents attached and provide an urgent response accordingly. As we now know, those were rejected and Clement was still added as part of Kingston College's quota for champs. So here are the critical questions to start, and I did some digging. So one thing that jumped out at me, the consistency in the Kingston College communication that the student was registered in April 2023. That's a little problematic for me because based on my checks, he was still attending Hillsborough High School in Grenada until June 2023, at the end of his fourth form year, at least based on the register at that institution. Now, I wasn't there to see if he came through the gate and out, but based on the register, it says that
on the books, he was still there.
He was present in school. So there is that. Having said that, though, the fact is, even if Joel, which we have proven, did not start Kingston College in April 2023. So let me tell you why April is important. If he started Kingston College in April 2023, he would not be a quota athlete. So we would not be having this conversation. If he starts in September 2023, though, then he is a quota athlete, and we're having this conversation. Here's another piece of evidence that is important. The Inter-Secondary School Sports Association, before the start of Champs, sends to each team the list of quota athletes. And I want us to have a look at that because Joel Clement is at the top of that list for Kingston College. So there it is. There are the athletes that the ISA sent to Kingston College. Joel Clement is at the very top of that list, right? This is a few days before Champs, yeah? But after Kingston College, Mr. Smith, as the letter said, had that conversation with Miss Brown. Yeah. Mr. Smith is saying, Miss Brown said, and this is all verbal now because there's nothing in writing here, which is a problem, especially on the part of ISRA as far as I'm concerned. Mr. Smith is saying, Miss Brown said, well, yes, he's cleared to compete. And it was on that basis that Kingston College decided that the young man was not a quota athlete and it is okay for him to go ahead and compete. So my question is, on what basis did Miss Brown grant that waiver, if I may call it that? And when Jamaica College protested, what was so different in the information they provided that ISA did not have before that classified him a quota athlete? And those questions, I suspect, have to be answered by the Inter-Secondary School Sports Association. But at this stage, and I could be wrong, it is appearing to me that this is a major blunder on the part of ISA, unless Kingston College provided inaccurate information that led Miss Brown
to verbally
clear the athlete to compete.
Well, from the position of the timeline that you had presented early, that was the main timeline that jumped out at me about a verbal waiver, because you get into situations like these and things can't be verbal. Yeah. Things cannot be verbal. They have to be written and documented so that you can go back to it for the checks and balances.
For sure, and I think that's where my issue also lies, Ricardo. In situations like this where we also, I mean, I understand, and I'm not even a Jamaican, how heated champs are and how, you know, it comes down to the wire. So I feel like even taking a verbal word from this Miss Brown, who I have no clue is, and going with that, I think that's an issue in itself.
Yeah, I mean, if I were in the position of Kingston College and I had gotten verbally that it was okay for the young man, I would have followed up with an email to say, hey, based on our conversation today, this, that, whatever the case might be. Some individuals would say that if he hadn't been cleared, how then would they have gotten the opportunity to enter him? I am not completely sure if an athlete who is, or if a team enters more athletes than they are allowed to, whether the system will automatically flag them. I am not sure, but based on my research, it seems to be that way. I also want us to listen to this because it also helps to clarify the Kingston College position. When we visited their celebrations yesterday, we had an opportunity to speak with Rafiq Shaw. This is what he said.
That a bit, the whole thing. So we would have sought permission from ISA, or sought clarification is a word, from ISA about the Clement. The fact of the matter is that he started attending school in April. but the new rule came into effect in September. Right? We start that clarification and we were given that clarification verbally that is okay. Coming to the champs now, the reason why the athlete who was disqualified, he was the one disqualified because he was a third of the quota at least to participate. Right? So it's not any favoritism or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I guess part of why he would have said that is because Gerald Clement won the gold medal in the decathlon.
Yes.
And, you know, this story is troubling for me, especially because part of what excites me about champs now is to seeing athletes from Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, winning gold medals at the high school championships in Jamaica. And this Grenadian decathlete, outstanding, wins a gold medal, and then he's caught up in all of this this
registration issues.
Yeah, this saga is just it's not a good look. It's not a good look.
And I did hear the president of ISA on a radio show yesterday, and I rarely ever disagree with Mr. Wellington, but he said he thought that this issue was much ado about nothing. It's one of those very few times that I'm going to disagree with Mr. Wellington, because I don't think it is much ado about nothing. It is important that people understand what has been done and why the decisions that have been made, because what happens when a similar situation comes up next year? And based on a ruling, people are going to say, hey, but you did that for KC last year, or you did that for... You don't want situations like that. So you want a very clear understanding of why these decisions are made, so it can become a quality reference point in future.
Yeah, well.
So you said, Wellington said it's much ado about nothing.
Yes.
Maybe he's a Shakespeare fan. we go to break. We'll be back with more on The Zone after this.